What's up, everybody? It's your boy Al, coming to you here in Houston, Texas. Want to talk about a couple of things, boxing wise. I know a lot of people saw the Canelo Charlo fight. I call that fight with my boy on the Big Fish podcast, Big Joe. We call that fight together, so stay tuned. Look for that on the Big Fish podcast. We were live on the scene. But one of the things that is coming from that after the disappointing performance by Charlo is who is Errol Spence going to fight next? Not Errol Spence, excuse me. Who is Terence Crawford going to fight next? Because what a lot of people are saying is after Charlo's disappointing performance against Canelo, and keep in mind, I did call Canelo in that fight. I did say that weight division jump, that 2-division jump would be too big of a jump because only the most special of the special can make that jump. You're looking at a couple of guys through our history that have made that jump, honestly. Looking at guys like Thomas Hitman Hearns, Roberto Duran, Sugar Shane Mosley. They made that jump. A lot of people feel Mosley didn't make that jump, honestly. He was mentioned in the Balco, but he did jump from 135 up to 147 and fight De La Hoya. Of course, Roberto Duran famously moved from 135, moved up to 147, fought a few tune-up fights in between to get himself ready to be at 147, and then fought the great Sugar Ray Leonard in the brawl in Montreal. Then you have Thomas Hitman Hearns, probably did it the most impressively because he jumped from 160 all the way up to 175. Jumped from 160 after he lost to Marvin Hagler, jumped to 175 and beat Dennis Andres for the light heavyweight championship of the world. Actually knocked Andres out. That's quite impressive coming from 160 to 175, jumping 2 whole divisions to knock the light heavyweight champion of the world out. But as I mentioned before on several outlets, and as I mentioned before on Big Fish podcast, that Thomas Hearns was a physical freak, 6'2", thin in the legs, long in the shoulders, could carry the weight up top, so he was able to do it. So a lot of people were thinking that maybe Charlo could do it, but I just felt that he didn't show me anything that was otherworldly enough, and you got to be otherworldly to be able to make that jump to beat Canelo. Canelo looked sharp, but to me, just overall, that fight looked like it was just an agreement that I wouldn't hurt you and you wouldn't try to hurt me. That's what that fight looked like. But a lot of people have lost interest in Charlo versus Crawford after Charlo's disappointing performance. So the question people are raising is, who should the great Terence Crawford fight next? Should he jump to 168 and fight Canelo? I say absolutely not. Don't try to make that jump. Don't even try to fight him at the catch weight. That is not going to work out for you well. A lot of people are still talking about Charlo. I say absolutely not. That fight will pique no interest. Charlo is, I don't think he's going to present anything that's going to excite the fans and boxing public as far as fighting Terence Crawford. A lot of people are talking about Jared Boots Ennis, and I want to talk about Boots Ennis. A lot of people want to know, well, why Terence Crawford should fight Jared Boots Ennis. He's undefeated. He's 28, 29-0. I think 26, 27 knockouts. He's an up and coming. He's on the rise. A lot of people saying that Terence Crawford should fight him because he's the next in line. But my opinion on that, and my advice to Jared Boots Ennis camp and him, is to, young man, wait your turn. Why do you say that? I say that because I'm 46 years old, and basically I've seen this fight before. Not necessarily Terence Crawford versus Jared Boots Ennis. Of course, we haven't seen that before. I don't have a hot tub time machine, so I didn't forward myself to the future to see that fight. But what I'm saying is I have seen before these young undefeated fighters with these great undefeated records step up and fight the champ and get exposed. Let's start with one of the most famous ones, Julian the Hawk Jackson. Everybody knows Julian the Hawk Jackson. He's one of the most famous YouTube fighters of all time. Why? Because his highlight reels are just spectacular. One of the 5, in my opinion, 5 hardest punches of all time. Boxing Hall of Famer, 3-time world champion. But in his young days, Julian was a 29-0 with 28 knockout, undefeated #1 contender. And he fought for the title against an undefeated WBA junior middleweight champion. You all know who he is, all you historians, Mike the Biter Snatch McCallum. And you've seen that fight. What happened to Julian? Undefeated with a great knockout record, greater than Boots Ennis, greater fighter than Boots Ennis. He's a Hall of Famer. Boots may get there one day. But Julian Jackson, young, undefeated, in his prime, stepped up, fought young Mike McCallum, champion, and got exposed. Got torn apart in 2 rounds. Some people say the fight was stopped prematurely. That's up to you. You can go on YouTube and check that fight out. I would highly encourage you to do that. Check that fight out. Tell me what you think, if you think it was stopped too early. But Julian got beat pretty easily in that fight. Rocked Mike in the second round with a left hook, but couldn't really put him away because he was too young. He was too wild, and Mike was putting that work in that body, so he got stopped. Another famous one, probably the most famous one. There was a young undefeated Ugandan named John the Beast Mugabe, 26-0, 26 knockouts. He ran up against the champion. A lot of people said this guy's undefeated. The champ ought to give him a shot. Guess who the champ was? Marvelous Marvin Hagler. We all know that was one of the most famous brawls in boxing history. But Marvin put John the Beast on his behind after John the Beast put on a great show. Hey, let's be real. John the Beast was outboxing Marvin early on in that fight, but Marvin made the adjustments, came and got the Beast, knocked him out. There was another one later on, some years later. There was a undefeated Mexican rising star named Yuri Boy Campos, who was, I think, 54-0 with 51 knockouts. And everybody said that people were scared to death of him. But he got a title shot against a young Felix Trinidad, who had only had like 3 title defenses since he had become world champion by knocking out Maurice Blocker. And they put Campos in there against Trinidad, and Trinidad tore him apart. He dropped Trinidad in the second round, but Trinidad got up in Trinidad fashion and put that hurting on him. So the reason why I think Boots in this sort of weight is because, look, I've seen these young undefeated fighters, and I've seen people talk them into the ring against a legendary champ just because they're undefeated. Young man, don't get yourself hurt. Crawford is another level. I know you're undefeated. I know you look good. I know you do a lot of tricks and stuff and clever stuff in the ring, but you do it in the ring with people not named Terence Crawford. So I think you ought to wait your turn. Wait till Terence goes away. Wait till you see some slippage or something in his ability, but don't go diving in there just because you got a cute undefeated record. And then a lot of people say that, well, what about, let's go back to Errol Spence. Should he fight Errol Spence? I say yes. I think he should give Errol Spence another fight. Now, I know what you're thinking. That fight wasn't competitive, right? That fight wasn't competitive. It wasn't competitive at all. A lot of people saying he shouldn't get in the ring with Errol Spence again because Errol Spence just didn't look right. But what I think is, and Errol Spence is saying, well, fight me at 54, which I'm almost on board with that. And I'll tell you why I'm almost on board with that. I'm almost on board with that because I think the good thing to do, the right thing to do was those two guys fight each other at a catch weight, maybe 150, 151. If Crawford doesn't want to go all the way up to 154, he doesn't feel like his body will be ready to go up to 54, then I think he should fight Errol Spence at a catch weight like 150, somewhere where Errol will be comfortable, he'll be comfortable, and so there'll be no excuses about making weight. Somewhere where they both can make weight. Because listen, it's no use of fighting at 54 because neither one of them has a title at 54. So there's not like there will be a title at stake at 54. So you might as well fight at a catch weight, right? Where you're both comfortable. Just for the sake of having the fight and just to answer all the questions that people might have had about Errol Spence being able to make weight. So I think that that's the fight that should happen. I think that Crawford and Spence should fight at a catch weight. 150, 151, so they both will be comfortable, and then we see what happens. If Spence says that the weight was a problem, let's get you at a weight where you're comfortable. Let's get you to a weight where you're both comfortable. You can go at it again and see what happens. But I think that's the next move for Terence Crawford. I think that he should fight Errol Spence in a rematch at a catch weight so we can answer all the questions, because there are a lot of people that's talking about what about the wreck? What about this? What about that? So I think a lot of these questions need to be answered, even though the fight was a one-sided fight, even though it was a one-sided beatdown. Yes, I still think that these guys should fight again because there are too many questions from too many people out there about what happened to Errol Spence. So I think that Terence should take the fight to just let everybody know, hey, just in case you have any questions, let me show you what the real deal is. So I think that's the fight that he should take. That's your boy Al. I'm going to holler back at y'all with another video later on. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. I'll be coming at you guys with more boxing content. This is my boxing channel. You'll be getting all boxing content. We'll put some stuff out there that a lot of people want to talk about, that a lot of people want me to talk about, and we're going to get it popping on this channel. So I need y'all help. I need y'all support. This is me. I'll holler at you guys later. I'll see you guys real soon. Peace.